A warning tonight from the federal government about growing threats of terrorism within the U.S.
A bulletin from the Department of Homeland Security says there could be more attacks following the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. Officials did not mention any specific or credible threats at this time, but said extremists may be motivated by issues such as COVID restrictions, the election results, and police use of force. The department typically releases these types of bulletins ahead of particular events or dates, such as Independence Day. It comes as thousands of National Guard troops remain in D.C. and will do so until mid-March.
Joining us tonight to talk about that alert is J.J. Green, national security correspondent at WTOP News in Washington, D.C. J.J., always great to talk to you. I want to start with the alert, and if it's directly related to the attack on the Capitol we saw January 6th, or do you think that this goes deeper to some of the events we saw last year, in fact, with riots and violence in some of our major cities, using Portland and Seattle as examples?
Yeah, this seems to be more related to what happened at the Capitol, but it can't necessarily rule out some of the activity that took place in other places around the country. The bottom line on what's taking place right now is authorities realize that what they're seeing is the merging of some groups. And some of these groups, they range from QAnon to other far-right groups like neo-Nazis, and, it could include any number of different groups that are disaffected right now, especially the QAnon folks who, as some of you may know, Marnie and Joe, have been looking for a home since President Trump left Washington. Some of them feel as though they didn't really have a place in the QAnon movement anymore, didn't believe in it, so they were looking for places. So some of these white supremacist groups have been looking to recruit some of these people. So it could be any number of different groups, a lot of different possibilities that are out there that authorities are concerned about right now.
And they have come out and said, the Department of Homeland Security has said there is no specific threat that they're acting on. However, they do believe that these people are motivated and emboldened by some of the extremists that you just mentioned. So the election, the inauguration, COVID-19, also police use of force. Knowing that, what are some potential targets that they would be looking to protect?
Well, they're trying to protect the electric grid. There are healthcare facilities. There are telecommunications facilities and equipment. There has been one of the big QAnon conspiracies has been that 5G is a part of some crazy conspiracy that is a problem for everyone. So it's not healthy, and it causes all kinds of problems. So they are concerned about those things. Critical infrastructure is what DHS calls it. But as well, they're concerned about the health and safety of public officials, politicians, and people who may be elected to office, and people in state and local governments as well. So there's a pretty broad range of people, and that includes journalists as well and entertainers. So they've got a pretty broad group of people that they're concerned about. And obviously we can't leave out the general public, because the general public could be caught in some of this activity. If there is any nefarious activity, the public could be caught up in this. So they're very concerned about a very broad cross-section of people, locations, facilities, and operations.
And JJ, you're absolutely right. In fact, this bulletin went on to specifically reach out to the American public and had advice on reporting suspicious activity, being prepared, avoiding large crowds, certainly easier to do during a pandemic, staying informed. Can you elaborate on what people at home can be doing to be part of the solution and preventing any potential threats of violence?
Staying vigilant is the key. The police and law enforcement authorities, the FBI and intelligence officials want people to do what they've been urging them to do for years now when it comes to foreign terrorist activity in this country, and that is, if you see something, say something. And they want people to call their local authorities, call the FBI field offices or fusion centers with any information they have that might help them if they see something suspicious, or if they know someone or know something about something that's going on or may be going on. They want to know about that. And this is a part of, I think, what we're going to see more of in the coming days, weeks, and months, is a focus on what's happening in communities around the country, because there are a lot of people in communities around the country that have identified with some of these movements over time. There's been a growing number of people. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies have been talking about this for years, but we've just started as a nation to pay more attention to it since January 6th.
We all play a role, that is for sure. J.J. Green, national security correspondent at WTOP News in Washington. J.J., we always appreciate your insight, and we think of major events. Of course, the Super Bowl is the next one up, so we'll all be keeping an eye on that and others. Again, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Marnie. Good to be with you again.